Hello everyone, welcome to our Biochemistry Period 3 Week 1. So for this week, we will be discussing your vitamins and then your minerals. So for your week 2, next week po yun, ang ating discussion will be about your hormones as well as your immune response. Okay, so for week 1, ito lang po yung ating pinaka-topic. It will be about your vitamins and then your minerals. And the next week, it will be about your hormones and then your immune response. So for period 2 and period 1, we were able to discuss your different types of your biomolecules. How are they being synthesized? How are they being utilized by our body? And how they exit our body. So natatandaan yung mga maraming pathways, yung utilization nila sa ating mga cells and different body organs, yung kanilang mga metabolism and other different chemical reaction. So yun yung pinaka-discussion natin for period 2 and period 1. So sa period 3, medyo mas light na siya, pero these are your foundation subjects or foundation topics that can be helpful in your clinical chemistry. So for your learning objectives, at the end of the module, you students will be able to, number 1, define and describe the properties of vitamins, enumerate the functions of vitamin in the human body, differentiate the types of your vitamins, identify the following sources of minerals, classify the different types of minerals, and lastly, describe the general functions of minerals in the human body. So the outline of our topic for this week, okay, so it will be subdivided into 2 main topics. Number 1, yung vitamins natin. Number 2, si minerals. So for vitamins, meron pong mga subtopic, may mga vitamins na naka-enumerate dyan. And then minerals, may mga minerals din po tayo na naka-enumerate dyan. So for each and every vitamin and mineral, meron po tayong discussion with regards to their physiologic functions, their food sources, their RDA. RDA, ma'am, ano pong ibig sabihin ng RDA? It is what we call the recommended dietary allowance. Recommended, sorry for the handwriting, dietary allowance. Meaning, these following vitamins and minerals, dapat meron lang silang sapat na amount, yung tinatawag natin na recommended amount that should be taken by our body para magamit po siya sa different metabolic functions. Next, yung tinatawag nating signs and symptoms due to the deficiency or excess of each and every vitamin and mineral. And lastly, yung pinaka-importante, yung mga diseases associated with regards to their deficiency and excess. Okay, so mayroong mga repercussions yan kapag may mga deficiency tayo or excess ng intake ng mga tinatawag nating vitamins and minerals. So kalakip nun, meron pong mga diseases associated. Okay, so sit back and relax. Medyo mahaba po yung ating discussion. So start po muna tayo sa discussion natin kay vitamins. So your vitamins are formerly called as accessory food factors. Again, your vitamins are formerly called as accessory food factors. So we have to thank Casimir Funk in 1912, yung tinatawag nating accessory food factors, mas pinaikli na siya, ginawa ng vitamins. So saan po ba galing, ma'am, yung word na vitamins? It came from these 2 root words, yung vita, meaning necessary for life, and the amine or amine. It denotes the anisotropy factors containing nitrogen. So vita and amine. Okay? Next, your vitamins are organic compounds occurring in natural food. Organic compounds meaning most of them, they contain carbons, and mostly they came from natural food. So your vitamins are what we call essential micronutrients. Essential meaning hindi po siya nasisynthesize naturally by our body. So it must be incorporated in our diet. So your vitamins, tingin po ng maigi, they can serve as cofactor and coenzymes. Ma'am, pwede pala yun. Yung mga vitamins natin, they can serve as cofactor and coenzymes. Tandaan, yung mga cofactor and coenzymes natin, they are what we call your helper molecules. Okay, yung mga vitamins po natin, hindi po sila kagaya ng mga enzymes natin that directly cause to catalyze yung mga different metabolic functions. However, they help in the process of the metabolic functions. Again, yung mga vitamins natin, they only serve as cofactor and coenzymes. They do not directly cause the catalysis or whatsoever. Okay? Helper molecules lang sila. Next, your vitamins can act like hormones. Okay? They can act like hormones, but they are exogenous. Exogenous meaning galing sa labas. Since galing nga po sila sa diet natin, they are not synthesized naturally by our body, meaning galing po exogenous, galing po sila sa ating diet. Okay, yung mga vitamins natin, hindi po sila substitute sa mga tinatawag nating major biomolecules such as your carbohydrates, your fats, and the proteins. They are there to help us in the metabolic functions and different biologic functions, but definitely they are not substitute. Meron pa din pong kanya-kanyang mga trabaho yung mga different biomolecules natin inside our body. And they are not components of your cell structure. So kung matatandaan yung cell structure natin, yung mga cytoplasm, yung mga nucleus, kahit saan po doon wala kang mahahanap na component that they contain vitamins. So tandaan po yan. So next, let us proceed with the classification of your vitamins. So mainly your vitamins, it is subdivided into two. Dalawa lang po sila. We have your water-soluble and the fat-soluble. Natatandaan, pinagbigyan po ng emphasis ni Ma'am Trina to nung period 2. Pag sinabing fat-soluble, A, D, E, K lang yan. ADEK, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Okay, pag water-soluble, so uunahin po natin si water-soluble, mostly yung mga B complex natin yan, yung mga vitamin B. Natatandaan si vitamin B, sobrang daming mga subdivision yan. Pero meron po tayong water-soluble na in a form of non-B complex. Ang tawag natin doon si vitamin C or your ascorbic acid. Pero pag vitamin B complex, dyan napapasok yung B1, B2, B3, B7, B9, B12, marami po yan. Okay? Again, pag po sinabi natin vitamins, tandaan, vitamins muna tayo. It is subdivided into two. We have your water-soluble and then your fat-soluble. Pag sinabing fat-soluble, ADEK lang yan. Okay? Pag sinabi natin water-soluble, it can be subdivided into two pa. We have the non-B complex and the B complex. Pag non-B complex, pag hindi B, anong sagot? C. C, okay? Tandaan, pag hindi B, letter C. So that is your vitamin C. Pero pag vitamin B complex, meron pa po tayong subdivision na naman. Pag vitamin B complex, that is under your water-soluble, it can be subdivided into energy-releasing. It can be subdivided into hematopoietic and other beta complex or your B complex. Okay, so ito po sila, pakikabisado po. Tapos, i-discuss natin sila isa-isa sa mga susunod nating slide. Okay? So, ano po ba yung main difference ni fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins? Bakit pa po sila pinaghiwalay, ma'am? Okay, so i-discuss lang natin isa-isa yung mga major differentiation ni fat-soluble and water-soluble. Pag fat-soluble vitamins, polarity-wise, they are apolar or hydrophobic. Meanwhile, your water-soluble vitamins, they are polar. So yun yung kanilang major differentiation. Next, when it comes to absorption, your fat-soluble vitamins, they require normal fat absorption. Meanwhile, your fat-soluble, they do not require normal fat absorption. Sorry, this is fat absorption. Next, for the storage of your vitamins, pag fat-soluble, they are stored in the liver or in the adipose tissue. Tatandaan. And except yung ating mga water-soluble, there is no stable storage except yung mga tinatawag natin na vitamin B12. Again, yung mga water-soluble vitamins natin, wala silang stable storage form except for the vitamin B12. Next, for the transport, your fat-soluble is transported in the blood by lipoproteins since they are fat-soluble, diba, si ADEK, they are transported in the blood by lipoproteins or specific binding proteins. Meanwhile, your water-soluble, being a water-soluble substance, they do not require your protein transporters. Kasi nga, water-soluble sila. Next, for the deficiency or prone or not, your fat-soluble vitamins, they are less prone to deficiency. Pag yung mga water-soluble natin, they are more prone to deficiency. So makikita niyo po ba later on kung bakit. Next, for the toxicity, if it is prone or not, yung mga fat-soluble vitamins natin, they are prone to toxicity. Toxicity meaning yung mas madami yung amount of that vitamin na na-intake mo, it can be toxic to your body. Next, yung mga water-soluble vitamins natin, they are less prone to toxicity. And lastly, yung excretion natin, how they exit in our body, your fat-soluble vitamins, they are being excreted through your feces or your stool. And yung water-soluble vitamins natin, they are excreted mainly through your urine. So start po muna tayo sa ating discussion ng vitamins. Mag-umpisa tayo sa, balikan natin, vitamins na energy releasing sa B complex natin. So start tayo sa vitamins na water soluble na B complex and then energy releasing muna tayo. So start po tayo sa energy releasing vitamin B1. Pakitandaan si vitamin B1, it is what we call the thiamine. Again, thiamine ang vitamin B1 natin. It is mainly used for the nerve impulse propagation. Again, your vitamin B1 is for the nerve impulse propagation. Okay, so kung titingnan natin yung pinaka-chemical structure of that vitamin, it is a methylated pyrimidine ring, ito, bonded through a methylene bridge to a thiazole ring. Nandito yung thiazole ring natin, ito yung tinatawag natin na pyrimidine. Okay, and makikita nyo meron po siyang sulfur. Okay, so your vitamin B1 thiamine, it is also called as your antinuretic vitamin. How do you spell nuretic? N-E-U. Sorry for the handwriting talaga. Nuretic vitamin. Next, your vitamin B1 or your thiamine can also be called as anti-beriberi vitamin. Ano pong spelling ng beriberi? B-E-R-I. B-E-R-I. So tatandaan po, pag vitamin B1, it is mainly for the nerve impulse propagation. And then ito po siya, it is a anti-nuretic vitamin and it is a anti-beriberi vitamin. So pag sinabi nating B1, vitamin B1, meron lang tayong dalawang diseases that are mainly associated with your vitamin B1. Yun yung tinatawag natin na beriberi. And then your Wernicke-Korsakoff. Wernicke-Korsakoff, so mamaya na natin siya i-discuss. Basta tandaan nyo po muna, pag vitamin B1, there are two diseases that are mainly associated with your vitamin B1 deficiency. Yun yung tinatawag natin na beriberi. And then the Wernicke-Korsakoff. So later discuss po natin. So what else? Your vitamin B1 needs to be converted into its coenzyme. Natatandaan, ang ating mga vitamins, they can serve as coenzyme and then your cofactor. So we have different forms of your vitamin B1. Ang pinakamahalaga po dito si thiamine pyrophosphate or your TPP. Familiar po ba? Familiar po ba si TPP? Again, ito yung pinakamahalagang form ng ating vitamin B1 or your thiamine. Next, si thiamine diphosphate. Okay, form number 1, form number 2, and then form number 3, si thiamine co-carboxylase. Again, what are the three different forms of your vitamin B1 thiamine? We have your TPP, your thiamine diphosphate, and then your thiamine co-carboxylase. Next, your vitamin B1 serves as a coenzyme for carbohydrate and amino acid metabolism. So pakitandaan po itong sinabi ni ma'am, it can serve as coenzyme for carbohydrate and amino acid metabolism. So let us proceed with the properties of your vitamin B1. The RDA of your thiamine depends if adult or children yung patient. So mostly sa adult, 1 to 1.5 milligrams a day lang po. Okay, madami na po akong references na labasan na nagsasabi na dapat ang RDA ng ating vitamin B1 is 1 to 1.5 milligrams a day. Okay? Also, it depends on the calorie intake. Kasi nga po, sabi natin, it can serve as a cofactor or coenzyme in your carbohydrate and amino acid metabolism. So, usually 0.5 milligrams for 1,000 calories po tayo dito. Tandaan po yan. So, what are the food sources or what are the sources of your vitamin B1? We have your meat, your fish, your egg, your nuts. Cereals can also be a source of your vitamin B1. Next, usually 1 to 1.5 milligrams a day lang po ang ating RDA. But may mga instances na kung saan dapat mag-increase din tayo ng intake ng ating vitamin B1. Saan-saan po yun? Ano-ano po yung mga instances na dapat mag-increase din yung requirement ng kanilang intake of the vitamin B1? Number 1, increase carbohydrate intake. Sabi nga po natin dito, balikan lang natin, it serves as coenzyme of your carbohydrate and amino acid metabolism. So, kapag tumataas din yung intake mo ng carbohydrate, tataas din po yung requirement mo for the vitamin B1. So, ganun lang po yun. Meron silang direct relationship. Mas tumataas yung intake mo, tataas din yung requirement mo for the vitamin B1. Tandaan po yun. Okay? Next, for the pregnancy, may mga instances na kailangan din pong mag-keep up with the requirement. Next, for the lactation, yung mga lactating mothers natin siyan, yung mga smokers natin, yung mga alcoholic natin, and prolonged antibiotic intake, yung mga patients natin that are under the medication of antibiotics. And lastly, yung mga patients who have serious or prolonged illnesses. Okay? Again, our vitamin B1 is essential for the carbohydrate utilization. So, the more na nag-i-increase yung intake mo ng carbohydrates, the more na mas required ka to take as well your vitamin B1. So, ito po yung mga different sources natin of the vitamin B1 or your thiamine. So, the metabolic role of your vitamin B1, it is mainly for energy releasing. It has a central role in the carbohydrate metabolism. So, kanina nyo pa napapansin, binibigyan talaga natin ng emphasis si vitamin B1 pagdating sa pag-uusap natin regarding carbohydrate metabolism. So, wag na wag mong kalilimutan kapag kalakip ni carbohydrate si vitamin B1. Next, the half-life of your vitamin B1 is it is 9 to 18 days. Okay. What else? Your vitamin B1 or your thiamine, it is a coenzyme in the decarboxylation of what? Natatandaan si TPP, yung isang form ng ating vitamin B1 that is the most important. Mahalagang-mahalaga po siya as a coenzyme in the decarboxylation of your pyruvate to acetyl-CoA, to your alpha-ketoglutarate to succinyl-CoA, and the keto acids from branch amino acid. Ma'am, ano yung pinagsasabi mo? Babalikan po natin sa P2 natin yung mga pathways na yun. So si TPP, kung natatandaan, mahalaga po siya sa tinatawag nating pyruvate dehydrogenase. Ito oh. Okay, so mahalaga yung mga thiamine natin dyan sa production of the pyruvate dehydrogenase. And then, it can serve as a coenzyme in the transketolase reaction. So, natatandaan si HMP shunt. Ano po si HMP shunt? Si PPP, di ba? Si pentose phosphate pathway. So, kung babalikan natin, ito po sila, involve po si TPP natin. TPP dependent pa nga po, Okay, yung mga tinatawag natin na oxidative decarboxylation. Okay, so si transketolase natin involved yan sa pyruvate dehydrogenase natin. What else? Yung mga TPP natin, di ba? Involved po yan sa transketolase reaction. Okay, natatandaan, nare-recall na ba si pentose phosphate pathway? So yun po yung mga deemed importance ng ating mga vitamins. They do not function mainly as enzymes, but they serve as a coenzyme or as a cofactor. Now, without them, these pathways or these following functions cannot function very well. Okay, yung mga pathways niyan, hindi po sila magpa-function ng tama kung wala yung mga vitamins na katulad ni thiamine. Okay? So, we have different effects of your thiamine deficiency. So, tingin na lang po ng maigi sa ating right side. magkulang ka lang ng intake mo for your vitamin B1, it can lead to cell death. Wow, ma'am, grabe ang OA naman. Nagkulang lang ako ng recommended dietary allowance ng ating vitamin B, cell death agad. Kasi po, ang ating thiamine, okay, pag nagkaroon ka ng decreased thiamine diphosphate, okay, as it is a form of your thiamine, pag nagkaroon ka ng decrease nun, ang kasunod doon, magkakaroon ka na ng decreased activity of your alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. Kasi nga po, it serves as an enzyme cofactor. So, ang kasunod doon, decrease na yung activity mo ng alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. So, kasunod doon, magkakaroon ka na ng mitochondrial dysfunction. So, hindi po natin gusto magkaroon ng mitochondrial dysfunction that can lead to cellular energy failure. Okay, kasi mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Doon ang gagaling yung mga parang tinatawag natin ng mga carbohydrates and then yung mga energy source natin. So pag walang energy source, the cellular energy fails to do their job. It can lead to cell death. So hindi naman po sinasabi ni Ma'am Trina na hindi ka lang hindi mo lang ma-meet yung RDA mo ng vitamin B1 for a specific day. Ibig sabihin cell death na agad. Okay, marami pa ring mga contributing factors as well as yung pagka-consistent talaga yung deficiency mo for thiamine, doon pa lang po magkakaroon ng mga deficiency or mga diseases associated. Hindi naman directly isang araw mo lang na-miss yung RDA mo, cell death agad. Okay? So again, mahalaga po yung ating thiamine lalo na doon sa ating mga HMP shunt, yung mga pentose phosphate pathways, sa ating carbohydrate utilization. So dapat sumunod tayo sa ating RDA. Okay? So, mapunta na po tayo sa discussion natin with regards to the different diseases associated with your vitamin B1. So, number 1, we have 4 types of different of your beriberi. Okay, matatandaan, meron po tayong dalawang diseases associated mainly for your vitamin B1. We have your beriberi and the Wernicke-Korsakoff. Si beriberi, meron pa siyang 4 types. Okay? Umpisahan po natin sa dry beriberi. Dry beriberi is asymmetrical peripheral neuropathy manifestation. Okay? It affects your nerve impulses. Tandaan, pag dry beriberi, mainly mga nerves natin yung involved dyan. Huwag niyo pong kalilimutan. Both sensory and motor deficits that would involve mostly distal extremities. Yung mga patients natin suffering from dry beriberi, usually they lost appetite. Makikita naman po sa ating picture na they are losing their weight. And naka-highlight po ng blue yung muscle wasting natin. This is for your dry beriberi. Muscle wasting, napapansin? 'Di ba? Parang wasted yung kanilang mga muscles, hindi na katulad ng mga nasa healthy individual na mas well-defined yung ating mga muscles. And kasi nga po, affected na mostly yung ating mga nerve impulses. Okay, so nakaka-observe na tayo ng mga muscle wasting for the dry beriberi patients. Also, peripheral neuritis with numbness. They can experience tingling sensation in the lower legs and the feet. The degeneration of the peripheral nerves, thalamus, mammillary bodies, and cerebellum. And stocking glove of the distribution of the pain. So, mostly affected na po talaga yung mga sensory and motor deficits natin dyan. So, nagkakaroon na ng mga alteration sa mga impulses, nerve impulses to be particular. Okay, so tandaan lang po, pag dry beriberi, mostly apektado dyan muscle wasting, and then meron tayong symmetrical peripheral neuropathy manifestation. Tatandaan po, yan ang pinaka-keywords natin for your dry beriberi. So let us proceed with the next type of your beriberi, which is what we call the wet beriberi. Pag wet beriberi, ito naman, cardiac manifestation. Cardiac manifestation, tingnan po ng maigi yung picture para matandaan si wet beriberi. Initially, there is peripheral vasodilation. Meron din tayo makikitang mga symptoms na katulad din po ng ating dry beriberi, but mostly yung mga peripheral vasodilation and cardiac manifestations, dito po talaga natin mas ma-observe yan sa mga wet beriberi patients natin. Okay, tatandaan po si pedal edema. This is because due to the low protein intake. So tingnan natin sa picture dito sa baba. Paano mo masasabi na edematous yung patient? Pag mataba siya, parang ganun, yung kanyang lower extremities. Tapos pag pinrest mo, hindi bumalik kaagad yung pinaka-muscle or yung pinaka-balat. Ayan, edematous patient po yan. So mas mapapansin po natin ang edematous patient sa mga wet beriberi patients natin. Next, meron na tayong tinatawag na foot and wrist drop and heart enlargement. So kung mapapansin, pag mga about sa cardiac natin, manifestations, heart enlargement, mas ma-observe po natin sa wet beriberi. Okay, so your wet beriberi, paano po nangyayari kasi yun, ma'am? So si wet beriberi, you can observe a vasodilation, a tachycardia, wide pulse pressure, sweating, and warm skin. Bakit po? Kasi po, meron kang lactic acidosis. Saan po nakuha, ma'am, yung lactic acidosis? So kung tatandaan ninyo, babalikan po natin yung discussion natin, lactic acidosis was developed because meron pong malfunction sa tinatawag nating pyruvate dehydrogenase dysfunction. Okay, si vitamin B1, nagkaroon na po ng malfunction doon sa pathway natin ng pyruvate dehydrogenase. So, nagkaroon na ng dysfunction. It led to lactic acidosis. What is next? It will lead to heart failure. Okay, so next na po nun, meron ka ng orthonea, pulmonary, and peripheral edema. Magkakaroon ka na ng vasodilation. Sunod nun, shock. Okay, your shock can lead to death. Okay, so differentiate lang natin si wet beriberi from the dry beriberi. Pag sinabing high output heart failure, automatic wet beriberi agad ang maisip mo dyan. Okay? Anything that involves your cardiac manifestations, wet beriberi po yan. Next, your heart hypertrophy, especially for the right ventricle, wet beriberi yan. Your tachycardia or your bradycardia, wet beriberi. Next, your dyspnea or your respiratory distress, wet beriberi pa rin po yan. And then yung binibigyan ko po ng emphasis kanina pa, si edema in the lower extremities and oliguria. And then yung lactic acidosis. Again, lactic acidosis because of the pyruvate dehydrogenase dysfunction. Next, si dry beriberi naman, it mainly involves the peripheral neuropathy. Okay, ano pa bang involved dito? Yung tinatawag po natin na muscle wasting. Sama na din natin siya. Or your muscle weakness. Okay, the ataxia. Parathesias. Okay, and then your Wernicke's encephalopathy. So, discuss po natin mamaya kung anong meron kayong Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Okay, so, but mainly, na-differentiate natin yung pinagkaiba po ni wet beriberi and then your dry beriberi. They're all involved in the deficiency of your thiamine. However, meron lang mga disparities or differentiation lalo na sa kanilang mga signs and symptoms. Next po, proceed na po tayo kay Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Syndrome, ibig sabihin, halo-halo or maraming tayong different types of signs and symptoms that can be observed. So, kaya po siya naging syndrome. Okay, so let me proceed with the next slide lang. Wait lang po. Okay. Okay, so proceed na po tayo. Meron lang technical difficulties ang ating PowerPoint, so hindi po siya naka-full screen. Okay, so proceed na tayo sa other types of your beriberi. We have the cerebral beriberi or what we call the Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Again, your cerebral beriberi is what we call the Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. It occurs in alcoholics who consume less food. Bigyan po natin ng emphasis yan. I-highlight natin yan. Paano ba natin i-highlight yan? Wait lang. Okay, again, it occurs in alcoholics who consume less food. By the way, your cerebral beriberi or your Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, it is a combination of Wernicke encephalopathy and then your Korsakoff. Okay, so two different types of diseases sila. Tapos pinag-combine lang sila, kaya po sila nakabuo ng what we call syndrome. Again, your cerebral beriberi occurs in alcoholics who consume less food. What else? It shows genetic predisposition, intelligence disturbance, ataxia. Minsan yung mga double vision natin, yung mga tinatawag din natin na nystagmus. Kasi nga po, yung ating mga impulses or your nerve impulses are mainly affected. So yung mga mata natin, kagaya nito, for the very, very patients, nagkakaroon po sila ng involuntary movement of the eyes or other muscles kasi hindi na sila controlled noong ating mga nerve impulses. Okay? So it progresses to Wernicke-Korsakoff psychosis. And then your Wernicke encephalopathy is an acute requiring emergent treatment to prevent neurologic problems. And then your Korsakoff syndrome, it is a chronic consequence of the Wernicke encephalopathy. So, ano ko lang, pause lang natin, end lang natin ang ating slideshow dahil hindi na makita. Okay, next type is what we call the Soshin beriberi. It is a subtype of your wet beriberi. It is more rapid form of your wet beriberi. Again, si Soshin beriberi, wag pong kalilimutan, subtype lang siya ni wet beriberi. It is more rapid form of the wet beriberi. It is an acute fulminant of your CV beriberi. Usually, makikita natin dyan yung mga cyanosis of hands, feet, tachycardia, distended neck veins, and anxiety. And lastly, rapid deterioration follows inability of the heart muscle to satisfy the body's demands because of its own injury. Again, we have 4 types of your beriberi. We have the wet, the dry, the cerebral, and then the Soshin. Si Soshin, mainly subtype lang po talaga siya ni wet beriberi. Okay? Okay, so now let us proceed with our next vitamin B complex. So, meron lang konting. Ayan. We're done discussing your vitamin B1. Proceed na po tayo sa ating vitamin B2, which is what we call your riboflavin. Again, vitamin B2, riboflavin. It is also called or also known as your vitamin G, or your lactoflavin. Vitamin B2, also known as your vitamin G or lactoflavin. Okay, the chemical structure of your vitamin B2, it is a heterocyclic isoalloxazine ring attached to a sugar alcohol or your ribitol. Tingnan po natin sa chemical structure. We have 2 main forms or coenzyme forms that are very important, and it is what we call your flavin mononucleotide. Pakitandaan si FMN and your flavin adenine dinucleotide or your FAD or FAD. For your vitamin B2, meron lang tayong dalawang mahalagang coenzyme factors or coenzyme forms of your vitamin B2. It is what we call your flavin mononucleotide and flavin dinucleotide. So let us discuss first your flavin mononucleotide or your FMN. It is formed when riboflavin acquires 1 phosphate group. Okay, yung FMN natin, it is an important cofactor in your NADH dehydrogenase. Again, FMN is an important cofactor in your NADH dehydrogenase. Sorry for the handwriting. Next, your flavin adenine dinucleotide. It is an important coenzyme in your glutathione synthesis. And mainly, this is being utilized in the Krebs cycle. So, tandaan lang po, may side note lang si ma'am na very important that we are very familiar with our pathways, especially yung mga pentose pathway, Krebs cycle natin, familiar tayo doon kasi mas makaka-relate po tayo at mas maiintindihan natin ng maayos yung ating discussion sa vitamins if we are familiar with the principles of your pathways way back pa nung ating period 2. Okay, so kung medyo nakalimutan na, pwede naman po munang balikan yung discussion natin sa mga pathways and then proceed na lang ulit kayo dito sa vitamins para mas ma-absorb nyo at mas maging fully immersed kayo with our discussion in the vitamins. So tapos na po yung side note. Going back to our main discussion, your vitamin B2 or your riboflavin is a phosphorylated to form your FMN, and FMN is further transformed or converted to phosphorylated to form the fat, and both reactions require ATP. Okay, it requires ATP. Pakitandaan po. So the properties of your vitamin B2 or your riboflavin, it is usually colored, fluorescent pigment, and then it is widely used as a food additive. Also, pakitandaan po, si vitamin B2 is heat stable but decomposes in the presence of visible light. Okay, medyo light sensitive si ating vitamin B2. And then what are the food sources of your vitamin B2? Usually makikita natin yan sa mga milk, sa cheese, sa yogurt. Ayan, dyan po. Madami po yan. They are rich in your vitamin B2. And then the recommended dietary allowance for your vitamin B2 sa adults, at least 2.0 milligrams a day. And then for the children, 1.2 milligrams a day. So the physiologic roles of your vitamin B2, they act as prosthetic group of your flavoproteins, act as coenzyme for hydrogen transfer in the reactions catalyzed by your flavoproteins. So yung ating mga FAD and FMN, usually coenzyme nga po sila, and they help in they are helper molecules in the reactions of your Krebs cycle. Okay, yung mga pyruvate natin, dehydrogenase, it is a carbohydrate breakdown, yung mga succinate-TH natin or yung tinatawag nating Krebs cycle. Ayan, mahalaga po sila dyan sa ating mga fatty acid breakdown. So usually, ang ating mga riboflavin, okay, they are mainly used for the glucose, fats, and protein metabolism. Again, they are mainly used for the glucose, fats, and protein metabolism. Itong usually yung mga riboflavin natin, they are being utilized for the energy or nutrient metabolism. So kung mapapansin nyo, okay, coenzyme siya sa different pathways involved. Maraming pathways involved, and then they serve as a coenzyme. Kung babalikin natin si FMN natin or your flavin mononucleotide, it is required for your L-amino acid oxidase. Okay? Kasi nga po, mahalaga po siya sa ating mga carbohydrates, sa ating fats, and protein metabolism. Okay? And then the deficiency of your vitamin B2 or your riboflavin, ang pinaka-term na tinatawag po natin sa ating deficiency, it is what we call your riboflavinosis. Again, riboflavinosis is the deficiency of your vitamin B2. And then your riboflavin deficiency can cause what? It can cause malnutrition, as can be seen in the photo. Number 2, malabsorption, anorexia, and chronic alcoholism. Again, what are the deficiencies associated with your vitamin B2? It causes malnutrition, malabsorption, anorexia, and chronic alcoholism. Next, let us proceed with your vitamin B3 or your niacin. Ang ating vitamin B3, it is a water-soluble vitamin, just like your vitamin B2 and just like your vitamin B1. They are not synthesized naturally by our body. Also, they are not stored, except yung vitamin B12 nga po. So yung vitamin B1, B2, and B3 na na-discuss natin, they are not stored in the body. So they must be taken or they must be consumed on a continual basis. Again, kailangan po dapat siya naka-incorporate sa ating mga diet kasi nga wala siyang storage form sa katawan. So dapat continuous yung pag-take natin ng mga diet natin that contains these following vitamin B complexes. Next, vitamin B3 or your niacin is also called as your nicotinic acid or yung pellagra preventive factor. Tandaan po, wag na wag pong kalilimutan kay vitamin B3 or your niacin. It is what we call your pellagra preventive factor. Ma'am, ano po yung pellagra? I-discuss po natin yan sa next slide. Pero tatandaan po kay vitamin B3, pellagra preventive factor. Next, it is also called as your nicotinamide or your niacinamide. Ma'am, bakit familiar sila vitamin B3, sila nicotinamide, yung mga also called as niya, yung mga niacinamide? They are substances that are incorporated sa mga skincare. Tatandaan, but in our body, they are in a form of vitamin B3 or niacin that's main function is it prevents your pellagra. So pagka naman po coenzyme ang pinag-uusapan natin, it can be associated sa mga NADP natin, sa mga HMP shunt, ayan, sila NAD, catabolic function, mga NADH, NADP, ayan, ano po siya doon? Associated siya doon as a coenzyme. Okay, coenzyme form ni vitamin B3 if it is oxidized in a form of NAD and NADP. Pagka naman reduce yung NADH natin and NADPH natin. Okay, and the phosphate in the NADP is the inorganic phosphate cleaved from your ATP. Pero, ang ating niacin, if it became deficient in the body, meron po tayong may experience na following signs and symptoms. It manifests as a pellagra. Pellagra po kasi, meron tayong tinatawag na pellagra or rough skin. Meron tayong 4 Ds. 4 po siya na manifestations. 4 na D. We have your dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia, and then it can manifest to or lead to death. Again, yung pellagra natin, it is what we call the rough skin, and meron tayong 4 na manifestations. It is 4D, and its clinical effects includes dermatitis. It is where your skin is exposed to sunlight. We have your diarrhea, dementia, and it can lead to death. Okay, meron pang mga iba't ibang clinical manifestations such as stomatitis, 'di ba, yung magenta tongue, okay, pansin? And in severe cases, pwede po maka-experience si patient ng GIT hemorrhage. Okay, next. The toxicity naman, pag nagkaroon ka naman ng excessive intake of the vitamin B3 or your niacin, 1 to 6 grams can cure hyperlipidemia. In high doses of your niacin, it actually inhibits the lipolysis. Okay, thereby inhibiting also the triacylglycerol synthesis. Okay, pagka masyado na pong mataas yung intake natin ng vitamin B3 natin, it can inhibit po yung ating lipolysis. And then therefore, it will inhibit the triacylglycerol synthesis. Okay, and the VLDL and LDL synthesis. And eventually, it will lead to number 1, dilation of the blood vessel. Okay, as can be seen. Sunod nun, magkakaroon na ng skin flushing. Yung tawag dito sa kanya, hindi po siya drunk blush. Hindi drunk blush yung tawag dyan. Skin flushing na po yan, te. Next, skin irritation and liver damage. Okay, so yung mga ganitong manifestations, hindi po dapat natin yan pinapagsawalang bahala. Baka mamaya, very serious na pala yun yung experience ng ating patient. Let's now proceed to our next vitamin B complex, which is your vitamin B5. Okay? Or what we call the pantothenic acid. Again, kay vitamin B5 na po tayo. It is what we call your pantothenic acid. It came from 2 root words, which is the panto, meaning all, and the thenic, meaning strength. Sorry for the handwriting. Okay, so your vitamin B5 or your pantothenic acid is also called as everywhere vitamin. Bakit po siya naging everywhere vitamin? Because this vitamin B5 can be found on all of your food. So pag tinanong, magbigay ng example ng mga food that contains your vitamin B5, kahit po ilagay mo si fish, si milk, si meat, si vegetable, they all contain your vitamin B5. Next, its active form is what we call your coenzyme A. And the recommended dietary allowance for your vitamin B5, usually for adults, 5 to 10 milligrams per day. Sa children, 4 to 5 milligrams per day. And then sa infants, 1 to 2 milligrams per day. So after nung discussion natin sa vitamins and minerals, for sure, mas magiging cautious na kayo sa mga kinakain yung food. Babasahin nyo na yung pinaka-dietary content niya doon sa likod ng mga food ng kinakain ninyo. For example, yung mga chips and all. So your vitamin B5, its main function is it is a component of coenzyme A or your CoA or CoAsh. Again, its main function, it is the component of coenzyme A or your CoA or CoAsh. Okay, it is also used for the detoxification of your benzoic acid. Naka-highlight po ng red or naka-red siya na Color, meaning it is important as a function for the synthesis of your bile acids. Remember, si bile acids, these are the precursor of your cholesterol. Okay, also your vitamin B5, its function includes it activates the fatty acids. It is involved in the extra mitochondrial lipogenesis. Okay, so as acetyl-CoA, involved siya sa different functions sa ating Krebs cycle. Mainly, yung pinaka-function po talaga ni ating vitamin B5, kung matatandaan po, it is involved in the glycolysis. Glycolysis. Meaning, mako-convert mo na po si glucose, mapunta kay pyruvate, di ba? In product siya. And then yung acetyl-CoA. And then this acetyl-CoA will help yung ating mga molecule para makapasok doon sa TCA cycle. Okay, again, helper molecule na naman po ang ating mga vitamin B5. They can serve as a cofactor or coenzyme. Pagka naman sa fatty acid, yung vitamin B5 natin, pagka nag-convert tayo ng fatty acid to CoA, to acetyl-CoA, ayan, involved po doon ng ating vitamin B5. As acetyl-CoA, it combines with oxaloacetic acid to form citric acid. It is the first step in the Krebs cycle. Tatandaan? Okay, it combines with choline to form acetylcholine. It combines with sulfonamide drugs to facilitate excretion. So ito po yung pinaka-function niya mainly. So, ang ating vitamin B5 for the deficiency, it is very rare, even yung mga toxicity natin. Kasi kung babalikan natin yung description natin for the water-soluble and then the fat-soluble vitamins natin, si water-soluble, mostly, or lahat po sila, hindi po tayo nakaka-experience ng toxicity because any excessive amount ng intake ng water-soluble vitamins natin, i-excrete lang natin yan sa urine. Okay, so pag-uusapan natin mamaya si vitamin C, pero yun yung pinaka-naisip kong perfect example na water-soluble vitamin C, and ang parang recommended daily allowance ng natin doon is 500 milligrams per day. So kapag ka uminom ka ng vitamin C, tas uminom ka pa ng, anong tawag dito, yung parang kulay orange, yung Beroka, okay, so nag 1,000 milligrams ka, yung excess amount nun, i-excrete mo lang din sa urine. So, most likely, hindi po tayo makaka-experience ng toxicity or that vitamins, yung mga water-soluble natin. And then the deficiency is very rare. Okay. However, meron pa din naman pong mga bad effects kapag sobra yung intake natin ng vitamin C. Pero that is for the discussion later. But to give you an example, it is less likely to experience toxicity of the water-soluble vitamins because they are being excreted in the urine. And then most symptoms are vague and mimic those of your other vitamin B deficiencies. Associated with burning feet syndrome, okay, wherein the patient experiences paresthesia. So wala pong specific signs and symptoms na magsasabi na you are experiencing vitamin B5 deficiency. Kasi most likely, pareho lang po ng mga symptoms natin with other vitamin B complex. Kaya nga siya complex, diba? Iba't ibang klase ng vitamin B. So let us proceed with your vitamin B7, which is your biotin. Again, vitamin B7 is what we call the biotin. It is also called as your anti-egg white injury factor. Ang pangit ng sulat mo, ma'am. Again, yung vitamin B7 natin or your biotin, it is also called as your anti-egg white injury factor. Next, your biotin is composed of two rings. We have your urido, U-R-E-I-D-O. Okay, kung makikita dito. And then your thiopene rings, T-H-I-O-P-E-N-E. Again, your vitamin B7 or your biotin is also called as anti-egg white injury factor, and it is being comprised of two rings. We have your urido, U-R-E-I-D-O, this is O, and thiopene rings. And then what are the main functions of your vitamin B7? It is mainly used for gluconeogenesis, meaning pagbuo ng ating glucose coming from other sources. Other substances other than the carbohydrates, okay? Next, branched chain amino acid catabolism, yung pag-breakdown po ng mga chained amino acids natin. and then your fatty acid synthesis. So we have three. It is mainly used for one, gluconeogenesis, branch chain amino acid, number two, and number three for fatty acid synthesis. Also, the main function of your vitamin B7 or your biotin, ito po siya, naka-highlight, very important. It serves as a coenzymes for your carboxylation reactions. So sa next slide, papakita po natin yung different enzymes involved with the carboxylation reactions. But to discuss it, the main function of your vitamin B7 is it is mainly involved in the coenzymes for your carboxylation reaction. Also, it serves as a carrier of activated carbon dioxide. So the food sources of your vitamin B7, mostly sa lahat naman ng mga food na ini-intake natin that is incorporated in the diet, meron po yung vitamin B7. But this substance is very rich in the vitamin B7 or your biotin. Yun yung tinatawag natin na egg yolk. Yolk lang. Okay, si egg yolk, rich din po yan sa cholesterol, pero it is also rich in the vitamin B7 or your biotin. So the recommended dietary allowance is 400 micrograms per day lang. Also, your vitamin B7, naka-highlight po dito, bukod sa it is mainly coming from all of the food, the liver, the milk, and especially your egg yolk, meron din po siyang unique quality kasi ang ating vitamin B7 or your biotin can come from your gut microbe synthesis. Ibig sabihin, meron pong mga bacteria sa ating gut, dito ba, sa ating digestive system that can generate or that can produce a great amount of your biotin. Okay, yun yung kanyang unique characteristic, si vitamin B7. It can come from gut microbe synthesis, meaning yung mga bacteria sa loob ng ating GIT tract, pwede po silang mag-generate or can synthesize vitamin B7. So ito yung sinasabi ni Ma'am Trina na carboxylation reactions. So these vitamin B7 can serve as a cofactor with your carboxylase enzymes. And these are the following enzymes na sinasabi ni Ma'am Trina. So vitamin B7 can act on your pyruvate carboxylase. This is the enzyme. And what does it do? It helps in the reaction of your gluconeogenesis in the liver during the times of fasting and starvation. So hindi na po natin siya i-discuss isa-isa, pero mas maganda na alam lang natin kung saan po siya nag-act upon, saang pathway, saang reaction, and then ano yung enzyme. Okay, so for the vitamin B7 biotin, it can serve as a cofactor for the enzyme pyruvate carboxylase that mainly reacts on your gluconeogenesis. Also for the 3-methylcrotonyl-CoA carboxylase involved in the branch chain amino acid metabolism of the leucine, to be particular. Next, it acts upon your acetyl-CoA carboxylase 1 and 2, and it is involved in the committed step in the fatty acid synthesis, and then your propionyl-CoA carboxylase. So what does it do? It helps it is involved in the metabolism of your valine and isoleucine or your branch chain amino acid. So sabi ko nga po, si vitamin B7, it serves as a cofactor sa ating mga enzymes na ito. Ito yung mga enzymes natin. Ito yung mga processes kung saan sila involved. And then si biotin or si vitamin B7, cofactor siya doon. Okay, gets? So for our next vitamin B complex, let us now proceed with your vitamin B6 or what we call your pyridoxine. It is under your amino acid metabolism. Again, let us now move forward to your vitamin B6 or what we call your pyridoxine or pyridoxine vitamin B6. Okay, it is also called as your amino acid metabolism vitamin. Can also be called as rat antidermatitis factor, adermine, rat antipelagra factor, your vitamin H, pakitandaan po, and then your rat anti-acrodynia factor. So yung mga diseases such as your acrodynia, it will be discussed on our next slides. But first, pakitandaan po yung mga other terms or also known as for our vitamin B6. Your vitamin B6 is required for many processes, kagaya rin naman ng ating mga na-mention na vitamins B4. So, your vitamin B6 can serve as a coenzyme and its biological active form, it is being utilized in the pyridoxal phosphate and then your pyridoxinamine phosphate. Okay, for your 4-pyridoxic acid, the major excretory product is the marker of your pyridoxine deficiency. Your vitamin B6 or your pyridoxine is a pyridoxical phosphate is important. Why? It is important in the cleavage of your glycogen chain during the process of your glycogenolysis. So mainly yung vitamin B6 natin, important po siya sa ating process, which is what we call yung glycogenolysis. Your vitamin B6 functions as a precursor of your pyridoxal phosphate and serves as a coenzyme for several enzymes for amino acid metabolism. So dito lang po talaga umiikot yung function ng ating ng ating vitamin B6. Mainly it is involved in the amino acid metabolism and for your glycogenolysis. And what are the food sources of your vitamin B6? We have your wheats or your grains, sa corn. It can also be found on your potatoes as well as your red meat. So the recommended dietary allowance for your vitamin B6, usually for adults, 2.2 milligrams per day. For the children, 1.2 milligrams per day. And then for the infants, 3 milligrams per day. So yung ating mga pregnant women and mga lactating women, usually they require high amount of these following vitamin B complexes and other vitamins kasi hindi lang sila yung nag-take ng vitamins or yung nag-utilize nun. Remember, they are carrying a baby and this baby needs the vitamins as well. So, mas mataas po talaga yung demand ng vitamin intake ng ating mga pregnant women and lactating women. So, for the physiologic importance of your vitamin B6, tandaan, it is involved in the amino acid metabolism, ceramide synthesis, and for your neurological functioning, mainly because your vitamin B6 aids in the production of your neurotransmitter synthesis. Neurotransmitter synthesis. That's why it is important for your neurological functions. Okay? It is involved also, or it is important in the physiologic importance of your serotonin, your dopamine, epinephrine, your norepinephrine, and then your GABA. Its importance also involves in the histamine synthesis. And then naka-highlight ng blue yung ating porphyrin synthesis, mainly involved in the hemoglobin. Okay? And very important po siya sa ating glycogenolysis, like what we've mentioned earlier. Also, it is involved in the processes of your many enzymes. Actually, mga 100 enzymes pa nga daw po yan. Okay, so ito lang yung mga ibibigay nating examples ng mga enzymes kung saan involved ang ating vitamin B6. We have your aminotransferases, mainly involved for the amino acid breakdown, your glycogen phosphorylase, involved for the glycogen breakdown, serine dehydratase, okay? And then so on and so forth. So ito yung important din po siya sa porphyrin synthesis. Okay? Your vitamin B6 is important because it maintains your neuronal integrity in tissues. Kasi nga po, it is involved in the synthesis of your neurotransmitters. That's why it is important for your neuronal integrity in tissues. And also important for the production of antibodies, mainly for the interleukin-2. Interleukin-2 production. Okay, so kung ano po yung pinaka-process ng ating interleukin-2 and then yung pinaka-process ng ating antibodies, it will be discussed na lang next week. But first, pakitandaan ng ating vitamin B6, it is important for the production of antibodies, mainly for the production of your interleukin-2. Your vitamin B6 is also important in the bone development. And then these are the deficiencies that are involved in the vitamin B6. Bakit po ba nagkakaroon ng deficiency sa vitamin B6? Ano po ba yung mga factors? Number one, kapag mayroong maintenance drugs or yung nag-i-intake po ng isoniazid si patient. Isoniazid, it is the drug that is used for the treatment of yung mga tuberculosis patients natin. Okay, what else? Pagka low talaga yung intake, hindi talaga nasasama sa diet. May mga hindi nasasama sa food intake ng pasyente. Wala masyadong vitamin B6. And then reduced absorption. Pag may reduced absorption yung pasyente. Okay, so what are the clinical features of your vitamin B6? The patient may experience anemia. Ano po ba yung anemia? Tingnan po natin dito. Ito yung mga different Signs and symptoms, feeling weak or tired all of the time, shortness of breath, increased susceptibility to infection, yung cold hands or feet. Diba? Yung may pallor na nakikita, namumutla. And then yung pika, yung mahilig kumain ng yelo, ganun. So anemia, it is characterized by hypochromic and microcytic. Okay? Kasi meron nga po tayong impaired hemoglobin formation. So bakit po nagkaroon ng anemia dito? Kasi nga po dito po involved po doon. Kasi nga meron tayong impaired hemoglobin synthesis. So, nagkaroon ng anemia si patient. So, si anemia, ang sinasabi nga po yan sa akin ng professor ko noon na hindi siya yung pinakasakit, hindi siya yung disease. Anemia is a manifestation of a certain disease. Parang isa lang siyang mga signs and symptoms of the disease. Anemia is not the disease itself. It is just a manifestation of an underlying disease. Pakitandaan po yun. Okay, what else? What are the clinical features that we can associate with your vitamin B6? We have yung mga epileptic form of seizures. Okay, for example, nag-worry na yung daddy sa kanyang baby kasi nagkakaroon na ng epileptic from seizures. Nagkakaroon na ng epilepsies from seizures. May mga episodes na siya ng epilepsies. Bakit po nagkaroon ng ganun? Kasi nga, meron siyang poor brain development because of the neurologic functions. Okay, so kung mababa yung intake, nagkaroon ng reduced absorption, bumaba yung vitamin B6, hindi na-develop yung kanyang merong neurologic development, naging impaired yung neurologic development, naka-apekto ito kaya nagkaroon ng mga episodes of the epilepsies yung bata. What else? The patient might experience acrodynia in rats, meaning it is painful extremities associated with irritability and photophobia, as well as pink discoloration of hands and feet. Okay, ito siya. Photophobia meaning masyado siyang sensitive sa light. Parang ganon. Okay, so those are the clinical features that a vitamin B6 patient, that a vitamin B6 deficient patient might experience. So let us now move forward to your vitamin B9. It is your folic acid. It is mainly involved in your hematopoiesis. So, tapos na po tayo kay vitamin B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7. Nandito na tayo kay vitamin B9. Medyo mahaba-haba na po yung narating natin. More to go. Vitamin B9 is also known as your folic acid. It is also called as your folate, your folacin, or your PGA. Initially oxidized with your NADPH, it can become dihydrofolic acid. And with another reduction reaction with your NADPH, it will become tetrahydrofolic acid. Indirectly, decreased niacin can decrease your folic acid. So, ang active form ni ating vitamin B9, yun yung tinatawag natin na tetrahydrofolic. Ito siya. Tetrahydrofolate. Again, the active form is what we call your tetrahydrofolate. And then these are the functions of your vitamin B9. It is a one-carbon metabolism, essential in the biosynthesis of your pyrimidine, amino acid, and then the purine. Mainly, this is involved in your DNA synthesis. Tandaan po. Kaya po nabanggit sila biosynthesis of your thymidine, amino acid, and then the purine. Folic acid is important in the DNA synthesis. It is a carrier of one carbon group moieties. And then, it is necessary for red blood cell production and neural tube formation. So, pakitandaan po na importante si ating vitamin B9 or your folic acid in the red blood cell production and neural tube formation because it will be discussed later on kung ano yung mga clinical features na ma-experience ng pasyente or yung mga manifestations once na meron po silang deficiency with vitamin B9. And what are the food sources of your vitamin B9? Basta yung mga green vegetables natin yan. They are very rich with your folic acid. Yung mga liver, okay, yung mga wheat natin and mga grains, they also contain your folic acid. So, ito meron tayong mnemonics for the absorption of your vitamins. So, tatandaan po natin, tingin lang tayo na maigi sa screen, yung pagkakasunod-sunod. So, for the anatomy of your GIT tract, we have yung duodenum muna, syempre, tas pababa, jejunum, and then terminal ileum. Okay, pababa po yan. So, duodenum, jejunum, and terminal ileum. So, your iron, it is absorbed in your duodenum. Your folate, or your folic acid, it is absorbed in your jejunum. And yung susunod nating vitamin B na i-discuss, which is your vitamin B12 or your cobalamin, it is absorbed in the terminal ileum. So for example, may kinain kang green na vegetable. So once na nag-start na yung ating mga digestion, saan-saan po siya maa-absorb? So si duodenum sa iron, sa folate, sa jejunum, and then si terminal ileum sa cobalamin. So ano po yung mnemonics dun, ma'am? So tatandaan mo lang palagi si DJT. DJT pababayan. So dapat you have to iron your clothes, number 1. Then fold them. Iron muna, then fold them. Folate. And then lastly, then put them in the closet. Cobalamin. Okay, so tatandaan natin si DJT. DJT. Para siyang, unahin natin yung i-clothes muna, iron your clothes, fold them, and put them in the closet. So, iron, folic acid, and then closet. So, yun lang yung mnemonics natin when it comes to the absorption of your vitamins. Huwag mong kalilimutan yan. And then the deficiency that the patient might experience are these following. So, growth failure. So, kung matatandaan yung mga patients natin or yung mga pregnant woman natin, they are being prescribed with folic acid. Kasi nga, mataas yung demand nila nun, and this folic acid will help in the development of the baby. Okay, so a deficiency might lead to growth failure. Okay, what else? It can lead to your megaloblastic anemia. Megaloblastic anemia or your rapid cell turnover. Huwag pong kalilimutan, associated sa folic acid si megaloblastic anemia. Paano naging associated yun, ma'am? So, tingnan po muna natin dito, megaloblastic anemia, ibig sabihin malalaki yung red blood cells mo. Okay? Paano po nangyari yun, ma'am? Since meron tayong impaired DNA synthesis, again, sinabi natin, si vitamin B9, it is involved in the synthesis of your DNA. Since meron kang deficiency doon, magkakaroon ka na ng impaired DNA synthesis. And then, pagka nagkaroon ka ng impaired DNA synthesis, magkakaroon ka na ng enlarged RBC. Masama po ba na malaki yung RBC? Yes. Hindi po dapat lumaki ng ganito. Meron lang specific size ang ating RBC so that they can deliver different nutrients in the body. Pero hindi po dapat sila lumaki ng ganyan kasi maraming mga repercussions na naka-associate pagka masyadong malalaki yung mga RBC natin. Meron lang silang specific size. Okay, so since meron ka ng impaired DNA synthesis, it will lead to enlarged RBC, and that is not good. So what are the two main causes of your megaloblastic anemia? Nandito po tayo kay folic acid. So later, i-discuss natin si vitamin B12. But when it comes to megaloblastic anemia, ano yung mga vitamins involved? We have B9 and B12. So going back to our discussion, megaloblastic anemia is a deficiency in your vitamin B9. It is where your rapid cell turnover. What else? Your neural tube defects. Meron tayong dalawang klase. We have your anencephaly, and then we have your spina bifida or your spina bifida. Okay, paano po nangyayari nagkakaroon ng ganitong defect pagka meron po tayong deficiency for the vitamin B9. So, ganito po siya. So, for the vitamin B9 or pagka nagkaroon ka ng folate deficiency, usually meron tayong neural tube. Okay? So, yung neural tube natin, it closes. Okay, so pag underdeveloped yung mga babies natin, usually yung neural tube na yan, hindi natutulungan ng inyong mga folate, hindi siya nagsasara. Pag yung anterior part ng inyong neural tube ay hindi nagsara or hindi nag-fold, it will lead to anencephaly. Anencephaly, ibig sabihin wala siyang cerebral cortex or may mga part ng kanyang skull ang kulang. And then, it will eventually lead to death. Again, paano po nagkaroon ng anencephaly? Dahil lang sa folate deficiency. Yung folate natin, it will help in the development of the neural tube. Dapat yung neural tube ng mga babies natin, it will close. Lalo yung anterior part ng neural tube. Wala lang akong picture ng neural tube. Kunwari, neural tube to. Okay? Kailangan dapat magsasara po siya. Pag hindi po siya nagsara or nag-fold, it will lead to anencephaly. Anencephaly, ibig sabihin may kulang sa skull niya. And then in this case, kulang yung kanyang cerebral cortex. Hindi nagsara. And then it will lead to death. Yun yung anterior part. Meanwhile, pagka naman posterior part, hindi nag-close yung neural tube, nagkaroon ng neural tube defect, hindi nag-close yung posterior part of the neural tube, hindi nag-close, hindi nag-fold, it will lead to spina bifida. Ganito yung itsura ng spina bifida natin. Okay? And they are all related to the vitamin B9 deficiency. Okay, nabanggit na natin si growth failure, si megaloblastic anemia, neural tube defects such as anencephaly, and then spina bifida. Next is your sulfonamides are given to stop bacterial cell growth, inhibiting your folic acid. Okay, may mga antibiotics po tayo na nakakaapekto sa sa intake po natin ng folic acids and then the absorption. And then your methotrexate competitively inhibits your dihydrofolate in your cancer cells. Okay? So, going back lang sa ating megaloblastic anemia, folate deficiency give rise to hematopoietic stem cell. Pagka yung hematopoietic stem cell natin nakagawa yan ng mga macrocytes, okay, it will lead to megaloblastic anemia. So, ito mas may in-depth discussion kayo dito sa inyong hematology and then the clinical chemistry. But to give you an idea, megaloblastic anemia, vitamin B9 and vitamin B12. Okay, so mahalaga po na mayroon tayong tamang intake of these vitamins para maiwasan natin yung mga deficiencies na nabanggit natin kanina. Okay? Next vitamin is what we call your vitamin B12 or your cobalamin. We're done with your vitamin B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, and B9. So, nandito na tayo sa vitamin B12. Long way to go. Your vitamin B12 is what we call or also called as your anti-pernicious anemia vitamin. Pakitandaan po, it is what we call your anti-pernicious anemia vitamin. It is involved in the extrinsic factor of Castle and also called as your erythrocyte maturation factor. So, meron tayong tatlong terms that are also known for your vitamin B12. Okay, usually it is being consist of a corrin ring system and others. And then it contains a cobalt. So, the main function of your vitamin B12 or your cobalamin is for number one, for the synthesis of methionine. Synthesis of methionine. So, let doktor na si ma'am. Okay, number two function is for the isomerization of your methylmalonine. Isomerization of methylmalonyl CoA. Okay, what are the two functions of your vitamin B12 or your cobalamin? We have number one for the synthesis of your methionine and number two for the isomerization of methylmalonyl. It is mainly involved in the transfer of methyl group from methyl THFA to your homocysteine to form methionine. And homocysteine causes atherosclerosis. So what are the food sources of your vitamin B12? Usually, it comes from your egg, your milk, liver, yung mga oyster natin. But it can also come from yung mga tinatawag nating bacteria, bacterial flora. Okay, pakitandaan po yun. So your vitamin B12 or your cobalamin, like what we've mentioned on its function, is it is involved in the isomerization of your methylmalonyl CoA. So ano po ba yung sinasabi ni ma'am na methylmalonyl CoA? Tingnan po natin sa ating diagram. Yung methylmalonyl CoA po natin, important po doon si vitamin B12 because it acts upon this enzyme. This is what we call methylmalonyl CoA mutase. Okay? So, without your vitamin B12, hindi mangyayari yung activation ng enzyme natin so that it can convert to succinyl-CoA. Okay? So, kung hindi po nag-act upon si vitamin B12, it will back up your methylmalonyl-CoA. Instead na maging succinyl-CoA siya, magiging methylmalonic acid siya. So, what will happen pag nag-increase yung concentration ng methylmalonic acid natin, it can lead to axonal neuropathy. Okay? Itong axonal neuropathy, it is a neurological disorder. Okay? It is irreversible. It can affect your dorsal column medial lemniscus system. Ano po ba ito, ma'am? Isa po itong nerve. Okay? So, pagka po hindi nag-act upon yung vitamin B12 natin doon sa ating enzyme, imbis na ma-convert siya into at ma-activate niya yung methylmalonyl CoA at maging succinyl-CoA, magbaback up siya, magiging methylmalonic acid siya. So, nag-increase yung concentration niya sa ating katawan, magiging axonal neuropathy siya. So, it will affect your DCMLS. Okay, itong axonal neuropathy natin, it is an irreversible neurological symptom. So, yun po yung kanyang manifestation and the clinical feature kung bakit nakaka-apekto yung deficiency ng inyong vitamin B12 or your cobalamin in the neurological aspect natin. Other than that, the recommended dietary allowance for your cobalamin is for the children 2 micrograms per day, for your adults 3 micrograms per day, and then mas mag-i-increase po talaga siya pag mga pregnant or lactating yung ating mga patients. So, dapat 4 micrograms per day. So, the deficiency is, it goes hand in hand with your folic acid deficiency. So, matatandaan ninyo sa megaloblastic anemia, meron tayong dalawang vitamins na sinabi na nabanggit kung saan pag deficient yung dalawang vitamins na yon, it can lead to megaloblastic anemia because it has an effect on your hematopoietic stem cells. And anong tawag doon? Vitamin B9 and the vitamin B12. And the deficiency, it affects your abnormal fatty acid synthesis and cell membrane defects of your neurological abnormality. So, kaya po tayo nagkaroon ng neurological abnormalities kasi nga naapektuhan yung ating methylmalonyl-CoA. Nagkaroon tayo ng axonal neuropathy. Okay, what else? It can lead to pernicious anemia kasi nga hindi maganda yung synthesis. Wala kang healthy RBC. Okay? And then nagkaroon ng megaloblastic or macrocytic anemia associated with neurologic deficits. Kasi nga, naapektuhan na po yung ating hematopoietic stem cells. Okay? Both folic acid and cobalamin are required in the remethylation of your homocysteine to methionine. Pakitandaan, therefore, deficiency of both vitamins will result to megaloblastic anemia. Okay? So, ang mga causes ng ating megaloblastic anemia mainly low intake. Okay, what else? Yung mga low absorption, yan po yung mga causes ng ating deficiency in your vitamin B12. So now, let us now proceed to your non-B complex, vitamin B complex. Nandito na tayo sa vitamin C or your ascorbic acid. Finally, naka-move forward na tayo. Tapos na tayo lahat sa ating vitamin B complex. Pero nasa water-soluble vitamins pa rin tayo. So si vitamin C or your ascorbic acid was also called as scorbutic, scorbutic acid. It is very sensitive to oxidation. It keeps iron in ferrous form. If it is reduced, it is rapidly destroyed by your alkalins. Freezing has no deleterious effects and it is a strong reducing agent. Pakitandaan po yun. Your ascorbic acid or your vitamin C is destroyed in pasteurization, and your vitamin C is derived from glucose through uronic acid pathway. Pakitandaan. So what are the physiologic roles of your vitamin C? Your vitamin C is involved in the hydroxylation of proline and lysine to hydroxyproline and hydroxylysine. Yun yung number 1, hydroxylation of your tryptophan, synthesis of norepinephrine, tyrosine metabolism, hydroxylation of your steroids, involved in the conversion of folic acid to active tetrahydrofolate acid, and it inhibits melanin formation by boosting glutathione activity. So kung matatandaan ninyo, yung mga nagpapaturok ng gluta, laging may kasama po sila na vitamin C associated doon sa kanilang mga glutathione na ini-inject parating may vitamin C. Bakit? Because it inhibits melanin formation by boosting your glutathione activity. So parang, diba yung melanin natin, yun yung nagbibigay ng dark pigment sa ating mga skin. So it inhibits the melanin formation by therefore siya yung nagbo-boost. Siya yung nagbo-boost doon sa glutathione activity na ini-inject doon sa patient. Okay? It is a regulator of your cholesterol metabolism. So, the major function of your vitamin C, marami po siyang critical functions. Ito yon, siyam yan. It is also involved in the collagen formation, sa natatandaan ko. But the major function is, it is a coenzyme in the formation of tissue collagen or intracellular cement substance. So yung mga food sources po ng ating vitamin C, mainly nakikita yan at nahahanap yan sa ating mga green vegetables, yung mga citrus natin, lemon, mga dalandan, yun, mga matataas yung concentration natin ng vitamin C sa mga fruits na yun. So the major function of your vitamin C, even though meron siyang 9 critical functions, is it serves as a coenzyme in the formation of tissue collagen or intracellular cement substance. So yung pinaka-deficiency na very popular for your vitamin C, yun yung tinatawag nating scurvy. Ano pong itsura ng scurvy? Ganito siya. Yung meron siyang spongy gums, poor wound healing, yung parang nagdudugo ba yun sa may bandang gums. Okay, merong splinter hemorrhage in nails, and petechial subcutaneous hemorrhages, ayan. Affected doon yung kanyang vitamin C. Meron siyang deficiency in the vitamin C. Tawag po doon, scurvy. We're done discussing your water-soluble vitamins such as your vitamin B complex, yung maraming vitamin B. Tapos yung vitamin C natin. Okay? So let us now move forward to your fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamins pa din po tayo pero nasa fat-soluble na tayo. So ano ba yung mga vitamins na involved dito? ADEK. Okay, vitamin A, D, E, and K. What else? Yung fat-soluble vitamins natin, it can be differentiated from your water-soluble vitamins in a way that it is excreted through your feces. Your water-soluble, it is excreted in the kidney through your urine. And then your fat-soluble vitamins, meron siyang storage form in the body. Saan po? Sa liver. Okay, so mas prone si fat-soluble vitamins sa mga toxicity kasi nga na-store siya sa katawan rather than yung mga water-soluble natin. Pero pag sa deficiency, mas prone yung ating mga water-soluble vitamins. So, let us start with your vitamin A or what we call the retinols. It is also called as beta-carotenes or your provitamin A found in plants, and it needs bile acids. It is also called as anti-infective vitamin. So what are the functions of your vitamin A or your retinols? It is for the maintenance of your reproduction. So kung natatandaan nyo ng mga bata tayo or nung high school or elementary tayo, pag sinabi na kumain ka ng carrots, it is rich in vitamin A para luminaw yung mata mo. So hindi po yung totoo, hindi po ginagamit yung vitamin A para luminaw yung mata. But rather, they are used for the maintenance of the vision. Okay, so kung pabaya ka rin naman sa mata mo, ginagawa mo yung mga bawal, talagang may tendency na lumabo yung mata mo. But your vitamin A or your retinols are there to help you to maintain your vision, also to promote the growth, and mainly used for the gene expression like your hormones and then your other steroids. It binds to raw receptors for protein synthesis, and it is used for the treatment of your psoriasis, acne, and then your cancer. Okay, see, ating vitamin A, may mga forms yan such as retinoids na nakikita po natin sa ating mga skincare such as ito, si The Ordinary. They are associated or it is inside or it is incorporated in the skincare. However, meron din po silang mga forms katulad ng isotretinoid in a form na mas toxic siya or mas harmful, pero mas effective naman siya in the treatment of your severe acne. Hindi po siya over-the-counter. It is being prescribed by your medical doctors. It is important in the treatment of psoriasis and acne. However, it is also important in the differentiation of your immune cells. Yun yung vitamin A natin. So, it is also important in the treatment of your measles. Yung mga pregnant women natin, hindi po sila allowed to take yung vitamin A treatment such as yung mga isotretinoid natin because high doses of vitamin A can be teratogenic. Vitamin A is an effective treatment for severe acne. Yung nga po yung sinasabi kong isotretinoid, other form of your retinols that are medyo toxic and medyo harmful, kaya dapat po siyang pine-prescribe. And then yung mga patients natin na nag-underwent ng vitamin A treatment, meron pong certain period of time na hindi po sila pwedeng mag-conceive ng baby or to get pregnant kasi nga merong mga repercussions. Also, may certain period of time na bawal din sila mag-donate ng dugo for at least 6 months, I think. Okay, so dapat nagsisign ng waiver yung mga patients natin na nag-underwent ng treatment of the vitamin A treatment. So the deficiency for the early symptom, pwede maka-experience ng night blindness and such. So mainly our vitamin A or your retinols are Very helpful in the maintenance of the vision, maintenance of reproduction, for the gene expression, and severe acne treatments. Let us now move forward to your vitamin D or your cholecalciferol. It is called your sunshine vitamin. Again, babalikan lang po natin sa ating period 2 discussion that vitamin D is naturally in our body. We need the sunlight for it to be activated. Okay, hindi po nakukuha yung vitamin D from the sunlight, but rather na-activate lang siya with the help of the sunlight. So D2 and D3 are both biologically not active but are converted to in vivo 25-hydroxy vitamin D and subsequently converted to active calcitriol, which induce the increased intestinal absorption of your calcium to increase bone resorption and decrease renal calcium and phosphorus excretion. So what are the functions of your vitamin D? So number 1, it stimulates gene expression or repress gene transcription, regulates plasma levels of calcium and phosphorus, increases your plasma calcium. Mostly, it is used for the mobilization of your calcium storage. Okay? And then, too much exposure to sun do not cause toxicity. Pakitandaan po yan. So, your rickets, pag sinabing rickets, ito yung sa mga bata. Okay? It is the poor mineralization of bones. Pagka naman sa adult, ang tawag naman natin doon is osteomalacia. It is the demineralization of bones. Ayan po siya. Okay? Pag nabanggit yung mga diseases associated with the vitamin D, pag sa children, wala po magsasagot ng osteomalacia. Naku ko, ewan ko na lang. Kasi pag osteomalacia sa adults lang po yun. Okay, it is the demineralization of your bones. Pag rickets sa bata, poor mineralization of the bones. Pakitandaan po. So for the toxicity of your vitamin D, it is the most toxic of all vitamins. Okay, kasi the calcium deposition in organs and arteries may accumulate. Formation of kidney stones is associated with vitamin D toxicity. Ayan po siya. A deficiency of vitamin D kapag sa bata, deficiency, rickets ang tawag. Pag sa matanda, yung poor demineralization, osteomalacia. So now, let us proceed with your vitamin E. The function is, it is your alpha-tocopherol. Mainly antioxidant po si vitamin E. So ang mga sources natin dito, pwede tayong gumamit ng supplements such as your Myra E. Sources natin, mga vegetable oils, livers, and the eggs. So the deficiency associated with your vitamin E, heart disease po. Okay? And then defective cell membranes and cataract formation. So wala naman po tayong reported or known toxicity of the vitamin E. However, ang recommended dietary allowance lang natin is around 300 milligrams a day. And then we have your vitamin K. Ang tawag natin dito, it is your coagulation vitamin. It is your anti-hemorrhagic vitamin and also called as your phyloquinone from the plants and menaquinone. It is synthesized by intestinal bacterial flora. Magkaiba po sila. Pakitandaan po yan. So what are the functions of your vitamin K? For post-translational modification of various blood clotting factors involved sa factor 2, 7, 9, and 10. So pagdating nyo ng hematology, i-discuss nyo yung mga intrinsic, extrinsic factor natin, okay, na mainly involved sa ating coagulation pathway. It carboxylates osteocalcine to be a gamma-glutamyl carboxylate. And then its function involves carboxylation activities for the clotting factors, and it is inhibited by your warfarin. So ano ba yung mga food sources natin for the vitamin K? Usually yung mga green sources natin, yan, sila spinach, sila cabbage, sila cauliflower, ayan, they are rich in your vitamin K. And what if naman si patient, mayroon po siyang deficiency in the vitamin K? Ito yung mga maaari niyang ma-encounter or mag-manifest sa kanya. Prolonged use of the antibiotics because it alters the colonic bacteria that synthesizes the vitamin K. So yung mga patient po natin na mayroong maintenance or they are matagal na sila sa hospital, most likely they are immunocompromised. Okay? Kasi prolonged use of the antibiotics can lead to inhibition of the synthesis of your vitamin K, kagaya ng mga colonic bacteria natin that helps in the synthesis of the vitamin K. So, medyo immunocompromised na po talaga sila. So, medyo mas delicate sila, mas sensitive na yung mga patients natin na nasa hospital for a longer period of time. Next, total parenteral nutrition, which is deplete of the vitamin K, prolonged fasting or starvation, fat malabsorption, high doses of vitamin A and E because it antagonizes your vitamin K. Okay, magkakaroon ka ng deficiency in the vitamin K kapag ka masyado mataas naman yung intake mo or yung doses mo sa katawan ng vitamin A and E kasi it antagonizes your vitamin K. Next, pag meron kang impaired blood clotting, and then meron kang hemorrhagic diseases. So, for the laboratory diagnosis or laboratory abnormalities, ang patient na merong deficient in the vitamin K might experience abnormalities in his or her APTT or yung partial thromboplastin time. Ito siya. Okay, yung PT natin, prothrombin time, and then your APTT, these are the tests involved to assess your clotting factors as well as yung mga coagulation test po yan. So, si APTT, partial thromboplastin time, and then your prothrombin time. Okay, bakit blue na tube yung nilagay mo dyan, ma'am? Kasi yun po yung test, yung pinaka blood collection tube that is being used for the collection of your PT and APTT. So, may mga laboratory abnormalities na ma-experience si patient pag nirun natin yung kanyang mga yung kanyang dugo sa ating laboratory. Ito yung merong impaired siya or mga abnormalities sa result ng kanyang prothrombin time and the APTT. Okay, these are mga coagulation test po natin yan, if you're familiar with it. So, to give you a summary of our discussion, yung pinakamahaba nating discussion, balikan lang natin isa-isa. So, we have your vitamin A, D, E, and K, retinol, beta-carotene, vitamin A po yan. So, si D, calciferol. So, si E, tocopherol. And then K, we have two forms. Yung phenylphylloquinone and then the menaquinone. Pinagkaiba po nila, si phylo from plants, si mena from intestinal bacteria. K1 and K2. K1 and K2. Okay? And then these are their functions. And then the deficiency or the diseases associated with the deficiency of each vitamins. So si rickets, sa bata po yan ha, osteomalacia sa mga adults. That is for vitamin D. Vitamin A naman, night blindness or xerothalmia or keratization of your skin. Okay, vitamin E, tocopherol. Extremely rare naman yung mga deficiency disease natin yan. Pero involved pa din po siya sa mga serious neurologic dysfunction and as well as sa ating mga cardiac functions or yung heart diseases associated pa rin po siya dyan. Ayan. And cataract formation as well. What else? Kay vitamin K naman, it functions as a coenzyme in the formation of your carboxyglutamate in the enzymes for the blood clotting and bone matrix. Pag vitamin K, tatandaan po parati, involved siya sa coagulation and sa blood clotting. Pag sa mga blood ganyan, vitamin K yan. So, the deficiency or diseases involved, impaired blood clotting, and then merong mga hemorrhagic diseases na maaaring mag-manifest kay patient. So, balikan natin si water-soluble vitamins natin. Start tayo kay vitamin B1, B2, B3. Si B1, ayan, ito yung mga may experience. Natatandaan po si Wernicke-Korsakoff, tsaka si beriberi. Nandito po yan kay B1. Si B2, si riboflavin, coenzyme in the redox reactions, pag pong kalilimutan, and prosthetic groups of your flavoproteins. Okay, ito naman yung kanya mga deficiency disease. Next, si vitamin B3 or your niacin, okay, or your nicotinic acid or your nicotinamide. It is a coenzyme in the redox reactions. So, nandito na po papasok si pellagra. Okay, for the vitamin B5 or your pantothenic acid, it can be found on all food sources. Kahit anong mabanggit mo, go lang. And then these are the functions. Next, si biotin naman natin or your vitamin H. It is a coenzyme in the carboxylation reaction of your gluconeogenesis and fatty acid synthesis. Next, pagka naman pumunta na tayo sa hematopoietic part natin, meron lang dalawa. Okay, pagka-affected yung hematopoietic stem cell natin, we have the vitamin B9, which is the folic acid, and the B12, which is your cobalamin. Okay? Pagka po megaloblastic anemia, involved sila pareho. Pero kay si pernicious anemia, sa vitamin B12 lang siya. And then yung natatandaan, sinaspina bifida, and then yung anencephaly, ayan, involved po sila dyan. Okay, what else? Your vitamin B6, it is what we call your pyridoxine, your pyridoxical, and your pyridoxamine. And then yung mga deficiency disease niya, it is involved in the disorders of your amino acid or may mga convulsion. So, balikan lang natin si folic acid, yung folate natin. Nandito na yung mga spina bifida natin. Okay? Nandito din si anencephaly. So, natatandaan pag folic acid, yung mga buntis agad yung naiisip ko dyan eh. So, susunod-sunod na yun. Yung mga neural development, underdevelopment, mga megaloblastic anemia, as well as yung mga underdeveloped na mga skulls, anencephaly, dyan papasok si folic acid. Basta isipin yung mga buntis yan sa folic acid. Vitamin B6, ayan po tayo. Pag-usapan natin yung mga disorders of your amino acid, yung mga neurotransmitter, tas yung mga yan. Nandyan po sila lahat. Mga epilepsy. Diba? Kasi may mga convulsions. Kasi meron kang poor brain development. Nandito po yun sa vitamin B6. Next, si ascorbic acid. It is a coenzyme in the hydroxylation of your proline, lysine, and collagen synthesis. It serves as an antioxidant. Pagka naman vitamin C, isa lang yung papasok sa isip mo na disease-associated. And it is what we call your scurvy. So, for the second part, i-discuss na lang natin si minerals sa ating second part of the lecture video. So, pause ko na muna dito.